will take over there. Oh man. So let's continue there.
Best
Good.
behavior.
So
that was a nice voice.
yeah. That was a really good voice. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome at the fifth Shopware United meetup. The topic for today is getting
Woohoo!
started with Shopware as an agency. Yeah. So let me switch to the next slide. The program for today is a quick intro. The topic, like I mentioned, is getting started with Shopware as an agency. We have four fantastic panelists and a great MC, of course, as well. The panelists for today are Tomislav Bilik from Inshu, uh, Mikolaj Krol from Bitback from Poland, Michel Wilms from H1 Web Development from Rotterdam, and Mark Slowcock from GPMD. Um, yeah, so the idea here is that we see a lot of people getting more and more interested in Shopware. We got a lot of questions lately, how to start with Shopware from different perspectives, from Silas perspective, from Magento perspective, um, and from several other platforms as well. So we came up with this panel, which has a lot of experience on different other platforms and adopted Shopware within their agency. Um, yeah, so that's something we're going to discuss today for the next 45 to 60 minutes, led by Ben. Um, I also would like to mention the following event. That's the Shopware Community Day. It's on the 3rd of September. Shopware will be there. Shopware United will be represented there as well. So yeah, hopefully we all see you there as well. Now I will hand over the conversation to Ben. So yeah, I hope we have a great event. Thanks all.
Thanks, Walter. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the party. Would like to take just a moment for our panelists to give just the briefest of introductions. Yeah, so we'll start. Let me see. Who do I have first? Michel, why don't you just give us a little bit about your business? Yeah, 20, 30 seconds or less.
Okay. H1 Web Development, part of H1 Group. We are an agency with 35 people based in the Netherlands, focusing on SME customers, but also we have some multinationals like Mercedes-Benz and Unilever in our customer base. We are currently becoming a Shopware only agency, but we still have quite some customers on Magento and PrestaShop.
Okay. Thank you. Tomislav.
Hi. So yeah, my name is Tomislav Bilic. I lead Inshu company from Croatia, but having clients all over the world. So for 13 years, we've been working almost entirely with Magento customers. And in the last couple of years, we are exploring different options to introduce some of the other platforms to our portfolio. And this is why we are here to share our experiences in this road. And I hope something that we say today will benefit to some of you.
Okay, thank you. Mikolaj.
So, hi, my name is Mikolaj. I'm basically the co-founder and CEO of Bitback, which is the first and probably the biggest sales-oriented agency that's currently in their partner network. We are quite super fresh to the topic as we joined the Shopware partner network this year, and we have saw quite a lot of fresh experiences with this platform. And yeah, and hopefully I'll be able to share it with you guys and make it much easier for our agencies. So nice to see you all, and thank you for the invitation.
Very cool, and always nice to see Salius represented, in platform discussions. Big fan. And Mark, I think you are our remaining panelist.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mark. I'm CEO of GPMD. We've been doing e-commerce websites for nearly 20 years. We have 4 e-commerce platforms, of which Shopware is one. Did our first project about 4 years ago. So we're based in London. Most of our clients are in the UK, but we have a distributed team across Europe. So we have clients across Europe as well.
All right, Mark, I'm going to start with you. Thank you for the introduction. We'll get right to it with the first question. What was the reason? I mean, besides the fact that it is certainly the best open source e-commerce platform that has not gone completely, totally enterprise. I'm just kidding. But no, it's a great platform. What made you add Shopware to your stable over there at GPMD?
We always wanted to be platform. I always wanted us to be platform agnostic. We ended up doing quite a lot of Magento in the early days of Magento, and the opportunity came up. We've been looking at Shopware for quite a while, actually about 18 months, and we just happened to, the timing was right on both sides. So for us, we were actively looking to add another platform. It was around about the time Magento 2 was just starting to come out, so we wanted to add another platform to our stable, and it was also at the time that Shopware were looking to kind of start moving into the UK. So it was really good timing. We liked the tech stack. It was a really, easy transition for the dev team to, if you're familiar with Magento, then moving through to, Shopware was quite, the learning curve wasn't as steep as it could be for something else. So yeah, it was a very good fit. Business opportunity was there. So it was good timing for us, and it's been, it's been great. We've been very strong on Shopware ever since.
Very cool. Good. Let's see. Any of our other panelists want to chime in on that? Michelle, Nikolai?
Well, what happened? We organized a well, if I translate it literally, it's the wholesale e-commerce event in Rotterdam, Groothandel e-commerce event, and it was sponsored by AutoCommerce, a B2B platform. And Patrick of Shopware, he sneaked in, and so that was our first connection to Shopware 3 years ago, but that was still a Shopware 5 time, and well, we were really looking to the best fit to our typical customer. And at Shopware 5, we thought, okay, that's quite okay, but still not what we really wanted. At that time, we chose PrestaShop for a lot of our customers. And then Shopware 6 came out, and not only me and my co-founders thought, hey, this is commercially a great product. The developers themselves, they came to us and said, oh, can we please use Shopware? So if developers tell you these kind of things, you're on the right track. I mean, if people like their work and start experimenting themselves in their own time, hey, this is an interesting platform. So very happy with his stack, the architecture, and those kind of things.
Okay, so maybe from our side, there was actually a lot of reasons we decided to move forward with Shopware. However, just to make it quick, with Silius, at some point we decided that we will basically apply it to the enterprise segment and the SMBs with very sophisticated needs, where we need a super tailor-made e-commerce solution. However, we get a ton of business from all over the world, basically requiring more standardized e-commerce platforms, where Silius was not always the best fit, and we've been basically losing a lot of business over that. Also, we didn't want to move forward with Magento 2 for many obvious reasons. We have quite a lot of Symfony developers internally, so it was relatively super easy for them to jump into Shopware. And yet, we started working with it. It has also a great community, which was super important for us. And as we see, this was also a reason we didn't decide to move with Magento. because we see that it's moving away from this community-driven approach, which was super important for us because it's driving a huge chunk of our business. So yeah, these were probably the most important reasons we decided to continue with Shopware. And yeah, for a few months already, we are quite happy with the way it turned out for our business. So yeah, that's for what it was for us.
So that's really helpful, and especially appreciate your firm's sort of, I think the tech of everything really infuses your firm. Going to take one of the emerging subjects here and kick it over to Tomislav, because when I first started in Magento development so long ago, there were two places you got information. Like, one was Alan Storm and the other was Inchu's blog, right? And Inchu always then would throw some cool graphics around it and stuff. So I think Inchu have demonstrated all along both a willingness to get in and understand how a platform works, and then also to share that knowledge. So I guess the question I'd like to pick up that I've kind of heard from other people was, as far as getting your team on board with Shopware, how do you find Shopware developers, or if you have those developers in house but they don't know Shopware, how do you turn them into Shopware developers? And how easy is it?
All right. So, our story with Shopware was a little longer in the making. After arrival of Magento 2, we just felt that, with Magento 2 coming in 2016 or 2017, it was not a perfect match for most of our clients. So we started exploring different options. One of them was Shopware 5, which wasn't a good fit for us. But with Shopware 6, we like the tech stack. People like the tech stack also, as somebody mentioned earlier. And this is why we made a decision to introduce Shopware to the company. But when asking how do we at Inchu train them, we don't actually hire Shopware developers. We hire Symfony developers or PHP developers. But one of our key strengths that we formed over the years was a strong onboarding process. So this is where we place a lot of effort into getting a good internal training program. This is how somebody who kind of starts with Magento or Shopware can get trained quite efficiently to become productive. And with Shopware, let's be honest, the learning curve is and will be more easier than with Magento 2. All right. So this was also one of the reasons why Shopware is interesting for us, because we can train people more faster. And the other thing on the technical side is that once the build phase is complete of the online store, the actual support, we believe, and we already see that it will be much easier to organize the technical support for the project on Shopware than it is with Magento. But as I say, as we said before, we are targeting different types of clients. So yeah, we started with Shopware 6. So let's say we don't have a background as GMPD does, or GPMD does. That is 4 years long. We just started recently. So as I say, most of the people were trained who were the previous Magento developers, now turn out to be the Shopware developers, and we also trained some junior guys.
I also believe that it's much easier to basically train somebody who's already experienced with PHP and e-commerce, because we have observed that it's much easier for them to basically understand how things work if they have already seen an analogy, for instance, in Magento or other e-commerce platforms. So for us, for instance, it was much easier to train new developers who basically has worked at Bitback before and make them Shopware developers, rather than basically hiring new people who were eventually becoming Shopware developers. So it was kind of important for us to have this at least e-commerce experience. So also knowing Symfony is super beneficial.
Yeah. And is that because Shopware's sort of Shopware's framework level features and functionality tend to be derived pretty closely or stick pretty closely to the underlying Symfony framework?
For us, it was actually the case, and also this is something that we were used to with Sirius because it's super related to Symfony, and we kind of believe that Symfony is determining the standards of coding in PHP. So yeah, so if you have this like kind of base knowledge of programming, PHP, Symfony, then it's much easier for you to
to our experience, really, if people have experience with Symfony, and most of our developers have that, they really like the way Symfony is used in Shopware 6, in comparison to some other platforms where Symfony is used, but not as Symfony is planned, as the framework was developed for. So that really, if you compare the learning curve of people with experience in e-commerce and PHP, or even with Symfony, for instance, with Magento 2 or Shopware. With Shopware, if you know a little bit about e-commerce and you're a Symfony developer, you can start almost right away. If you are smart enough, experiment a little bit, well, within a week you understand it, and within a month you're really, well, a great Shopware developer. And Magento 2, not so much.
You need to learn the Magento 2 framework first.
Exactly.
And yeah, it takes a lot of time, and you know, usually we have seen that people who like Symfony, they basically don't want to learn something else that doesn't follow the standards as much as Symfony does. They have pretty much mastered how you should build web applications, including e-commerce platforms, and we see that people basically want to follow those standards and they don't want to learn something else. Yeah, which is the case in Magento, Presta, or other platforms, I guess.
Interesting, because I know it's always a challenge, right? Keeping developers happy, because developers, especially developers working in the the e-commerce space, and specifically the PHP e-commerce space, they're very employable, right? So their skills are fairly portable. I think, to your point, it's not just knowing, being a great developer in e-commerce is not just about knowing the application that you're working with or the framework that it's based on. It is also having that domain level knowledge of e-commerce and how things need to flow and how things can be used and reused. So I think we're hearing a good story here, right? Which is that on balance, it's easier. It's certainly easier to find or build Shopware expertise for your dev team. What are some of the pitfalls that you all have uncovered, like specifically in the, well, I won't limit it to just Shopware 6, but just in general, what are the pitfalls that you see? Or, a related question would be, what are some things that you would have liked to have known before, or as you got into the Shopware world? And I'll leave that as an open question for the panel.
German language.
That's what I was going to say. I wish I knew German. But I have to say, I've made no effort to learn it either. So, the German language. There for us, there's definitely some nuances about how how specific platforms work, and that that's Shopware is no different to that. It's understanding, particularly if you're used to other platforms and how, say, products are handled, or how certain things are done. It's doesn't always feel completely logical the way some things work. And so it's just getting, understanding that, for example, sale prices, how that works in Shopware 5 is, doesn't make sense to me in terms of logic, but it's once you figured it out, it's not a big deal. So there were a number of the way certain features work and understanding how that was put together in both Shopware 5 and 6 that are, give you a little bit of a challenge to begin with.
Okay, and probably follow-up question, did the logic change meaningfully from 5 to 6?
Actually, I haven't checked the sale price logic on 6 actually yet, so I can look at that. I mean, there are some things in 6 that, you know, like the state machine for orders, you know, takes a little getting your head around and you know, understanding how it works. That definitely has been a challenge, not something that, you know, is very prescriptive in terms of how you need to work it, and that's been a little bit of a difficulty. And other things like how, you know, understanding the APIs, like there are quite a few APIs, so to get the information you need, you've got to pull it from multiple places in one go, and that is, you know, also can, you know, present a little bit of a challenge.
Do you think GraphQL, do you or others think GraphQL might help with that at all?
I always like the idea of GraphQL, but in practice, we aren't using it that much, you know. But I always like that, you know, when I go to a talk and I hear about the idea behind it, the theory behind it, it's great. But in practice, we aren't using GraphQL that much. So, you know, I'd like to see more of it. Yeah. But I also think, you know, some of the sort of standard APIs could be a bit consolidated, or maybe you have, you know, different versions of different things. So if you want to get an order, for example, you know, in order to export it somewhere, then maybe there should be one API endpoint that you can call it gives you everything, rather than having to, you know, get the product, get the order, get the address, get the, you know, so, but that's maybe just a maturity thing, that actually that might come in the future, that it's, you know, started with the underlying API structure, and then maybe things will sit on top, or maybe we'll build something on top that will.
Then again, I think since the API is so extended, there is so much possible.
Yeah,
it
exactly.
might come to a little bit complicated, but there's way more possible than in comparable systems. So I believe last week we had a discussion with a other application for the subscription economy. We designed a integration with them, and they were really like, whoa, is this possible? Can we integrate on that level with the API? So yeah, it is more complicated because there is a lot of API available, I guess.
Okay.
And I guess that's a symptom of being API first, right? You've got to have an API for everything. So
exactly. Yeah.
On a kind of marketing and sales side of things, I think that one of the differences is that there is a different way to sell and get the new leads or get the new projects related to Shopware, because in our experience, most of the customers that are coming to us and want Magento, they ask, we want Magento, and this is the starting point of the sales negotiation. Yeah. In Shopware, it's a little bit different. You know, outside of Germany, it's not well-known name. So we together as agencies need to work on brand awareness of Shopware. So this is why actually the marketing is a little bit different. But I'm not saying it's a big pitfall, because we knew that from the very start. And I rain-checked this question with my technical team regarding the pitfalls. One of the things that they said is that the surprise was that the backend developers need to learn Vue.js, and they kind of needed to unlearn some of the things they learned in Magento 2, in Magento, and they needed to accept some of the new programming concepts that we see in Shopware, but they see it as a positive thing. So it's quite good. It's quite good. And yeah.
So this actually made also things a bit more complicated for us. And yeah, it's also quite a drawback, because currently during the pandemic, we are facing the situation where there's a ton of work and not so many people basically to hire. So because everybody's so busy doing e-commerce. So if we are also following the same strategy, we would train people because there's, at least in the Polish market, there's no good developer left, because they are already hired by other companies and super busy with work. So and at the same time, during the pandemic, everybody wants everything to be done ASAP. So basically making things more difficult to understand, to learn. costs time, and it might be considered a drawback, at least during the pandemic. However, in the long run, it's all for the best, because this is basically something they would need to learn eventually, because this is how the market is moving towards, well, what the market is moving towards. So yeah.
I think so. I'm gonna switch things up just a little bit. We have plenty of time, but like this is actually a thought that I have too, because my role of growing Shopware's penetration in places where there really isn't an awareness of Shopware. It is interesting because I would see and so I think in again I have to refer to the Magento world, but there are those merchants who come in already primed, like they know for whatever reason, or they think they know that Magento is what they need. And it's, it's on an agency to actually be familiar enough with a few different platforms to actually make sure that that merchant is correct in their assumptions. But when you need to bring in a new platform that maybe in that market they haven't heard of before, how do you make that first sale? How do you bring Shopware into the discussion? And whether we talk about it now or later, how can we help?
Shall I start with our first sale?
Please.
They had a failed Magento 2 project actually, and they asked us, can you help us to finish
it? The bar was low. Got it.
Can you help it to finish it? And then we did some research on that platform and what was done and what should be done and how much work it would take. And then the sale was pretty easy, because we said what you really want in terms of features, in terms of flexibility and things like that, we can create the same amount of time that we need to finish the Magento 2 project. Well, we can build a whole Shopware 6 platform for you, or not a platform itself, but the web shops that you need on the platform. There are 4 sales channels for different brands, and they were like, they couldn't. The only problem was that they couldn't believe it in the beginning. So I had to guarantee something. I had to say, okay, I'm sure it's this amount of time that we need. So there was a certain risk for us as well, because it was the first time we did a project for a client with Shopware 6. We took the risk and we didn't burn ourselves so much. So we're very happy with it.
So I have to ask, and I imagine other people are wondering as well, like what gave you that confidence? Like if this was, it'd be one thing if you were coming in with the build experience, but this was also your team's first Shopware project. Yeah. So how were you confident?
Gut feeling? No, it's more than that. What we did before we made a decision to work with Shopware 6 was we really got deep into that. So every developer had his own environment, did all kind of tests. We did performance tests to be sure that it was stable. So in a way, we built a couple of Shopware shops before we start selling it, only not for clients. So that already gave a lot of confidence. And then another thing was, if a developer says, whoa, really, to clear this mess of the failed Magento 2 projects, it really makes me so unhappy to be a kind of Sherlock Holmes who done it. Where can I find what they did, etc., etc. That we thought the other project has his risk as well. So yeah, in the end, in the beginning, the documentation is quite good, but as with every platform, there is room for improvement. And in the beginning, there was more room for improvement. But since it's so really Symfony based, really as Symfony should be used, we had a lot of confidence as well, because we have good Symfony developers. They saw it and thought, okay, if it doesn't exist, we can build it ourselves without any problem.
And I have a question, maybe we'll get to later, about because so often, because we're necessarily dealing in the custom commerce space, or at least that's where platforms like Shopware shine. Building out adjacent, applications around it for the business needs that might not necessarily be built into Shopware. I am curious just how much Symfony can help there, especially because Symfony has so many additional applications built on it. Like you have like these small, nimble frameworks.
This is what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So,
Mikola, like what's your answer to this question? Like, how do you, especially, I'm really interested because I think Cilius and Shopware are probably a little bit closer together than like than Shopware and like certainly where Magenta's going.
Yeah. So the big benefit that Michel mentioned is that basically if there's something is not documented, good developers can basically debug it and understand how things are built more easily. And if there's something that they can't find in the platform, which they weren't aware of before they started pitching the client, it's usually super easy to build it as basically a feature using other third-party bundles, so forth. So these are basically packages for Symfony, which they can basically wrap into this e-commerce, let's say, shell and adapt it to meet standards. So what I'm basically trying to say that there's like 3,000 bundles, 3,500 bundles for Symfony already. So if the problem is super, let's say, popular, chances are they are going to find some puzzles, make them together, put them together, and meet the client's requirements, which wouldn't be the case with other platforms because they would first need to look for, let's say, fine PHP packages, which nobody is doing that much nowadays. And then try to understand each standard of this package and merge them together. And in the end, they would probably come up to the conclusion that it's much easier to write something from scratch. So Symfony makes it super easy to basically build scalable applications quicker due to this approach. And we did it with Cilius. Also, Cilius has a great plugin system, so we have made, for instance, a lot of work with Cilius in the open source. So we plan to do it with Shopware as well. But it's much easier to deliver if you have this kind of standard.
Okay.
And this basically gives you a lot of confidence, especially if you have a qualified team.
As we've seen. Tomislav, what about you?
Well, I think that people are building the solution, the Symfony or the technologies is actually helping. Absolutely, the API architecture, the Symfony framework, etc., are making the things much easier. Even the people who are working on have years or working with Magento, and they build a skill set to identify and choose the right approach, how to solve certain issues or build certain solutions. They can still be very effective in Magento or Magento 2, but with Shopware we see that certain level of custom features or custom solutions will be able to deliver much faster in Shopware than we are used to with Magento 2. It doesn't mean that Shopware is a perfect match for every client. We just think that Shopware is a good match or better match for a certain type of merchants that we are dealing with. But I see in Chu also working with Magento, continuing to working with Magento in the at least next couple of years. But I think and believe that strong Shopware ratio of the projects will strengthen in the years to come at our company.
Okay.
This is quite an interesting question. I think, like, how do you sell your first project?
Yeah.
And also what's your appetite for risk in terms of new things are always risky, aren't they? I'd really echo what everyone else has said, that it starts with a great team. And hiring, when you're hiring, don't hire for experience in particular platforms, but hire for track record, for problem solving, for an attitude. That's what gets you really good people. And so when you do new things, like taking on a new project, a new platform, you're de-risking it because you've got a team that's really experienced in problem solving and has worked in e-commerce for a long time. But selling it is also very interesting. Our first project was actually called the Fish Society. We just launched a case study. So 4 years in, an 8-fold increase in revenue over the last 4 years. So it's been really successful. It really, like you said before, Tomislav, that sometimes people come in and they want a platform. They've decided that they want Shopware, they want Magento. But other times people are open, and we always ask the question: are you open? Do you want us to look at whether the platform is the right fit? And some clients are open to it, and in which case you can do a review and say, look, this one is a slightly better fit for these reasons, we feel, or you can present it that way. Usually it's not a massive order of magnitude difference. Normally it's actually just a slightly bit better fit for your requirements this way than it is another way. And I think we found with Shopware that performance, as in site performance, has been easier to achieve. Even if the sites are a bit faster. Then Magento, you've got to work really hard to make it fast. And Shopware that's been a lot easier, and site performance is one of the key factors, right, in terms of revenue growth. So what conversion. Okay.
I want to tackle that performance question because I think it's really interesting. Where the industry is taking on. Well, so we have there's that company Google that most of you may have heard of that effectively set the standard. Whether you like monopolies or not, they kind of set the standards for what matters, because what matters is is that you can be found there. I mean, I think social commerce to some degree is helping. Serving as kind of I don't know if it's a counterbalance, but certainly those channels are maturing where different media, social media outlets are getting better and better at targeting and facilitating commerce, in stream. But right now it's still often and for probably most merchants always important that that you are high up, that your site is findable and then performant when the customer's on there. I know I'm really super pissy about poor performing or somehow encumbered user experience. And one of the ways though that theoretically that we're making this better, we as an industry, like kowtowing to Google, through things like, AMP, but specifically PWA, and we had SPA before that. But what we're seeing is as different platforms are, tackling, especially PWA, you have upstart tech. I think you have. What I'm seeing is a resurgence of just this sort of, we don't actually care how it's delivered. We just know we need performance. And PWA has specific use cases, but I think of something like Hoover which has come along in the Magento world, which is kind of saying, maybe we can do the important thing, like actually get sites built without the developers tearing their hair out and being performant from the get-go. I imagine a lot of the people on this call are wondering about this issue, and where is PWA has been kind of this emerging thing, and it's continued to just go along for years. Like where is the end, and does it matter? Like that's kind of a curveball question, but I'd be really interested to hear this group tackle it, and probably it'll end up in discussion in the breakout rooms later.
Well, there are a huge amount of variety in different front-end frameworks that are out there nowadays. from React, the PWA things, and at Inchu, we started with PWA. We got burned by it, and then right now we are more keen to believing that the solution for e-commerce project is actually lies in the different lightweight approach to the front end than it is the actual PWA. So Hiva or Huva, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but this is the path, or this is the approach which we think that is the right approach for modern e-commerce need to have a lightweight e-commerce front-end framework where you will actually get performance, but also get it more not so dependent on different types of technologies that are appearing and disappearing very fast. So we do believe that performance will be a very important metric in the years to come. Right now, Google is boosting the awareness of performance actually becoming important factor for the for the organic inbound traffic. We don't see that much of the influence right now as much as it's written, so that performance actually has such a strong correlation with organic inbound traffic. But since Google is announcing that in advance, I believe it will happen. So we all need to be very careful about our performance factors, and that we all need to think about the strategies each of our companies will use in tackling the performance issues on different platforms, of course. And I do believe that with Shopware will have more easier job than with Magento.
Okay. Other panelists, what do you think about this topic? I mean, and yeah, I should say PWA, I think the important thing for PWA initiative is just the incremental improvements. Like, there are steps along the way, and these concrete steps are actually a good thing. Even in general, just looking at the prioritization of making things meaningfully performant. But I'm really interested to hear, because it's a balancing act, right? It's PWA is not necessarily the be all end all, but I bet a lot of prospective or current, customers for the agencies are coming in, just knowing that they have to have PWA.
I like there was one event. I'm not sure what is the name. I think it was a Shopper Day or something, where Dominic Klein was speaking about it. And when he talked about that PWA should be more considering in using and enabling the application experience for the online stores, and not the whole and not that the whole online store needs to be on PWA. But when you need some type of app-like experience, that's where PWA should be used. And kind of in the company, we all feel that that this is correct, and something that we that we are working on.
Okay. Other panelists, what do you think?
So PWA is obviously not the only way to speed up the page loading and basically being higher in Google. But it also comes up with a lot of other benefits, like the offline access, or basically the better overall user experience. And as nowadays, the e-commerce basically process become more and more complicated due to various factors like other integrations, and basically the page loading time not only depends on the e-commerce platform itself, which in the end is just the orders aggregator, but also a ton of other factors which can basically delay the user access. And I'm pretty sure that basically Google has taken in consideration how users operate nowadays, that they are super impatient, and that basically the time factor matters. And I truly believe that considering this factor and also other benefits that PWA brings, it's something we'll see more and more often. We see, at least at Bitback, that there is a lot of customers coming to us and asking for PWA. What's even more, they are asking specifically for View Storefront. So yeah, one thing is that there is already a solution for that. It comes with a lot of great benefits for the business behind it. Yeah, so I believe that it's my personal opinion. I might be a bit subjective here, but I believe that the PWA is forward what we will see more and more often in the e-commerce world.
Michael, Mark.
What we see in Holland is there is some awareness about PWA, but not with, especially in the SME range of our customers, is not the most frequently asked question. So if it comes up, it's because, well, they need some features or they need some experience that we say, hey, PWA is your solution. So it's still not that we are forced to do it, but we use it if needed. That might change. That might change, especially if the technology well, gets a little bit more accepted all over the world, etc., etc. What we also see is that it makes a lot of developers very happy because, well, it's fun, it's new, it's beautiful, it's elegant. And for especially the smaller merchants, it's quite often, okay, but can you make it as fast without PWA? Because it saves us some time and therefore money. Yep. Well, since up till now, we can do that. Yeah, we not always use PWA. I mean, it's interesting for the most sophisticated customers at this moment. That's our experience with it. The good thing, however, is that was one of the decision factors to go for Shopware. If PWA will be the standard, we're ready for it. And not every platform is ready for it. Or it is doable to create something with PrestaShop, for instance, but it's not really, well, the best experience as a developer if you want to create a PWA for PrestaShop.
Right, because you are asking, you know, PHP developers to become a little bit more familiar with JavaScript. I mean, PWA fundamentally.
That's quite a big shift.
Yeah,
it is.
So we've launched our first PWA sites recently. We've got a few more coming. Shopware PWA coming as well. I think the first, you know, I like your, you know, when's the end of this story, but I don't think it'll ever end. You know, it's always going to keep going. You know, and as complexity increases and the sophistication of the solutions that we're putting together now is going to keep going, right? You know, if you look 10, 20 years ago, it was a much more simpler use case. Now, what you're putting together is multiple different services from, you know, the platform plus 15 other different third-party services, as well as, you know, maybe a headless PWA front end. So how it plays out is going to be really interesting. I quite like, you know, we like PWA. It's quite complex, you know, it's a whole nother learning curve in terms of doing it. But the on-site experience is really nice. It's, you know, it's fast and it, you know, it's a totally different way of browsing a website and actually works pretty well. But whether, you know, what's going to win out is going to be a very interesting question. But we certainly think it's not right for everyone. But there are some really good use cases, and there are some great case studies as well as to, you know, what it can deliver. So
I suppose we could all agree that, you know, the fundamental thing is performance, right? That's the most important thing. It's the most important thing for the merchant's customer. The merchant should feel the effects of good performance in a positive way. And I think there's also an interesting question of performance when it comes to the efficacy of your development team and your development effort, and how quickly and capably you can not only build the solution, but also maintain that over time. And that probably is where something, you know, it's where I guess View Storefront comes in as an advantage, right? Because it's sort of an additional space that has its own work going on. Like, so you're actually able to leverage the work of others as they continue to build this out, and ideally, and I assume, keep up with this evolving story of PWA.
Yeah.
Okay.
One when you said that performance is a key thing, etc. It is very important. But when we were building the online store, the lot of different factors are coming into account, and the build phase is only the first step. As you said, it's important to think how will actually the continuous support and incremental changes be handled that way. Because if you are targeting very hard on performance numbers, you could introduce a lot of alpha technologies which are not so well known, and maybe the team that will build this will do a good job. But then once it is over, once the build phase is complete, maybe these people will move to some other projects. Maybe they'll move somewhere else. But one of the story that we see that a lot of companies are forgetting is that, okay, what happens then what happens after some new guy will actually need to get introduced to the project? What will be his learning curve? And this is where we see a lot of companies are coming to us and saying, we don't have the team who build the site, and then right now we don't know, we are having issues into growing it, into making it richer, fuller, or whatever. So the whole nowadays with the very large businesses, a lot of these things need to be taken into account, because it's not only harder to build a site compared to let's say 10 years ago, it's also much harder to support it and create the right team that has the effective knowledge to work on it in the months to come. And one of the very important things to take into account when organizing the support is the story of introducing a new guy to the project and the effectiveness of him being productive. So yeah.
It's interesting. It's an interesting point, that, Tomislav, but we found that actually Vue.js is quite a popular language, platform, whatever you want to call it, that developers are quite interested in learning. So we found that hiring, when you say, hey, we want to be doing Vue.js, then actually we had a lot more people apply for the job.
Yeah, same here in Holland. Yeah, I can completely agree. If you can promise some Vue projects, people are wanting to work for you.
Interesting. Yeah. And do you find that you can easily convert them to the dark side, to the old bastion of PHP? I asked this because in my travels back when that was a thing, going to these huge developer conferences, it's India or like Vietnam, and like the kids, I can call them kids because I'm old now. They're the hot shit for them is JavaScript and like blockchain fintech stuff. Right. So I see that, and I'm so happy to see so many developers, but I feel like there's an excitement around JavaScript as opposed to seeing PHP as kind of old and stodgy. And then of course there's this distraction of like all the, untold billions to be lost in, in crypto and stuff. But so JS is like sort of JS adjacent technology to the PHP backend. Becomes a recruiting tool, is what you're seeing.
Yeah, but then you need enough work for that, and it's as just what you say. We still have that PHP. Well, it's becoming better because we use the framework of Symfony. But then again, what they currently learn at a university is not PHP.
Right. Oh, but they never learned it.
Exactly, but
I'm sorry. True. It runs like it's like half the internet, but no, we were not going to bother to teach it because you
can learn it. But okay, but what you see is that they are exactly what you say. So they are interested in those kind of technologies, maybe something like a Python, and we have to convince them that you can create cool things with PHP.
Sometimes even Python seems a little bit outdated for someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish. Yeah, Python's an interesting story, and their dictator for life eventually stepped away. So, for the panelists, I guess since we're kind of circle back around to getting people in, what do you like in having people and training people up? What are your approaches for building this out? Like, do you? I guess it's a mix of, you have the people that you already have on staff, you have the people that you hire, but what does the training journey look like, and how much are you prioritizing the training that we have, including the somewhat recently launched Shopware for Magento Developer Series by Jesse Reitzma. Like, how do you approach that question of training, and what kind of expectations or demands do you set on your employees for becoming certified, or at least becoming trained up?
Becoming trained up, really important. Certification, yes, we'd like people to do it, but it's a lot of our devs actually say they'd rather work on a project and they'd learn more doing that than they would being certified. But certainly, training is something we're continuously working on. I think we can do a lot better at it. People with experience tend to, have found it easier with us. And so we're working on the kind of training people up and how we can support people more. It's really important trying to get that balance of get enough training before you get started, and then, get into a project as early as you can, because that's when when you're really having to solve real world problems. Theoretical ones, generally, you don't think about all the edge cases or all the different scenarios people might want. A real world problem, a real project, a real client is where you really cut your teeth.
Okay.
We also did a kind of, well, let's say it a central theme, where we said, okay, so Shopware 6 is a new platform. It was last year. What do we need? What are we missing? Come up with your ideas. And then we chose a couple of those ideas, and we promised, okay, if you really build it, you can win this specific prize. In the end, they gave it to a charity, but that was even better. But we wanted them to focus on a specific part that they thought Shopware was missing. So by then, the acceptance of a platform is even better, because they feel, okay, and I can solve the problem that I have with Shopware. So
what was the winning gap that was filled?
Well, actually, the most practical thing was one of the plugins that we have in the store right now, and that was ready within the deadline. Otherwise, another ID would win. But there were very practical functionalities that we ranging from bundled products, which is a typical Magento kind of functionality, to something with a connector to a specific Dutch transport company or something like that. So very practical things, but by letting people asking themselves, what are we really missing and what is irritating me, you turn it on. It's not you turn it off. It's not irritating them anymore, because they are involved in a solution. So that was a big part of the acceptance of the platform. And then I believe we have around 10 certified developers right now. Our plan is to certify everybody. And some people obviously need it more than others. So our best developers in Shopware at this moment are not certified. Yeah, I'm not sure if I should tell this in public. Okay, sorry about it.
Oh, you're Dutch. You can't help it.
I don't think they're listening in. Okay, they're all great. Yeah.
So for us, for instance, not only we did obviously the certification, the whole basically training phase, but we also made a ton of research and asked our consultants and developers to contribute to a blog post which was called Comparing Magento, SWU, Shopware, and Presta, as far as I recognize. So yeah, basically they needed to do a ton of research and find analogies with what they already know, what was frustrating them, finding all pros and cons of each platform. And this basically has given them an ability to discover the platform in details and basically look for what might be interesting for people who are willing to jump into Shopware to know it better compared to other platforms. So yeah, and this turned out to be to take definitely more time than we initially presumed, but in the end it was a great learning possibility for our team, and there were many people involved in that. So yeah, this turned out to be a great training opportunity for them.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think the ideally the purpose of any certification really should just be more about helping developers understand. You get a picture of like what should I know, like, and how do I know the things that I do know and I don't know, like how do I know what's good, what's bad, and like what is the pace of progress that I should have over time. And that's always it's a subjective pursuit, but certainly important. For some people more important than others, but being able to give people a clear roadmap even of like getting from like where you're starting today versus where you're going is
I think that's something we're working on as a company, not just for developers, is, what is that roadmap? How do you progress? How do you become, a start at the bottom, level 1 developer through to, senior level? There's more than just programming skills. It's problem solving, it's communication, it's debugging, there's all sorts of skills that you need to learn. And that's something we're really trying to work on and like give people a progression. So how can they move forward?
These are the common challenges for the companies that are above, let's say, 20, 25 people. We also struggle with that a lot into bringing the transparency into the progress. And so we also started on working on seniority levels, but we don't explain it. On the level where we discuss the code level knowledge, but actually we describe seniority by the way somebody approaches to the work and the effectiveness of problem solving in different situations, because the actual knowledge that somebody needs to know at some point in time actually changes. Technology changes, concept changes, but the actual approach is more eternal. So so we also in the last especially 2 or 3 years struggled a lot with this, and right now we believe that we created a system that actually makes sense, but also defines the seniority level also define not only how individual approaches to the problem solving, but also how he approaches taking care of the junior members of the team, making sure that less senior people have enough support and stuff like this. So with this type of workshops, we see that we improved into the effectiveness of work, and actually things make more sense to the people than they did before. Yeah.
So probably pursuant to this discussion, and thanks Justin for helping me remember this to ask about this, the solution specialist certification. So I think we can all agree, or hopefully we all agree that by nature of these platforms, you are getting into more customized solutions, right? So do you see value in having that solution specialist certification and probably related curriculum to help the people like doing things like sales engineering, or even more, you know, complex like store ops, to help them, you know, kind of understand the platform and its idea, its opinions about how commerce is done, as well as engineering solutions. And I guess a third dimension is that interface of how the solution works in the context of the different standards and ways of doing business out there. So whether that's a merchandising practice or understanding how the software, you know, enables or can simplify fulfillment or tax calculation, and like, what do we think about a certification like that in the Shopware world?
It always helps if somebody prepares a training for you. So what we do is, when we have our project managers and working on a project, we want them to know the platform as well, and being really that partner that helps the client to really use the platform. So if there is a training that does exactly what you just explained, telling what is possible, and so you know at what level you are. Maybe you already know everything, but at least then you know that you know everything. That helps. And what's the worth? Yeah, since I have to pay the examinations, keep the rate low, and we will be your customer.
Yeah, it does get quite expensive actually doing all these certifications. Yeah, I think there's value in it for sure. You know, that like Mikhail said, that you kind of go at solving specific problems. So quite often you're looking at specific areas of a platform, and there may be areas of you know, particular functionality within a platform that you hardly ever look at. So it's good to have that kind of introduction to it, and a broad, you know, particularly if you're less experienced. I think having a kind of training course that's going to help you get to grips with the platform is a really good thing.
And it probably shortens up the learning curve, because if the developer was basically just up to learning from the documentation, no matter how good the documentation would be, he would eventually take as much time as there is for it. So if the training process is super organized, it gets much easier, and it probably gives the developers better confidence that they know something, because in the end they are certified. And also it's a good benefit for sales consultants. Basically, it's a big advantage that you are actually certified and that you know the platform, and not just saying about it. You actually, you are actually rewarded for knowing it. So
I have a question though. Do you think that it helps in the selling process, in the sense that besides the knowledge that you get, that you can tell we are a company with, in our case, 10 certified developers? What is your experience as an agency? Do you think that really helps to convince people?
It's probably one of the key factors, because eventually the merchant needs to choose you as an agency and the solution. So if he wants to choose you combined, he needs to have the confidence that not only he's choosing the right agency, but the agency who actually knows the vendor. Obviously, you as an agency, probably you have a lot of other advantages on the market you are operating in. And I believe that, that it's one of the factors that determine that the client is actually going.
So you use it in the sales process as well?
Yeah, obviously. And so,
I should start mentioning it.
Yeah.
In Magento world, actually, from the numbers that we have, around 20% of the clients are actually very. It's very important to, let's say, in a negotiation with 20% of the clients. It's not for all. Somebody never asked, but if you have a good number, be sure to mention it, because it is important to some of the merchants.
Yeah.
Everybody can say that everybody can say that they they know Shopware. Yeah, it's one thing to say it and one other thing to prove it. So
yeah, this actually, so there's we're having some questions come in, and I'd say as people, if you if you want to start asking some questions, I think there's probably some. I'm gonna actually do something potentially scary for my employer, but it's how I roll. I'm scrolling back up. Some questions. I want to actually kind of where we are right now is a good opportunity to talk about to mention Kalpesh's question about being a Shopware partner based in India. But they're effectively they're seeing what happens in our industry is when you have operators out there, you have agencies who don't deliver quality work for whatever reason, and then that actually ends up becoming a problem for the brand. I mean, it's an immediate problem for that company because they've failed to deliver good service, but it also can have some brand damaging effects. And I think that's, it is important for, it's on the platform itself to tell that story, to basically set the expectation in the market that, you should be considering Shopware. Oh, and if you're going to do Shopware, the way to do it right is with a partner, and with a partner who is taking the time to train and certify their staff. So that gives you a higher level of confidence. Now, that question, so I'll put that out to this group to kind of, say yes or no, but then I think that also ties into my friend Oscar, and I don't know if that's maybe Oscar Recio from Interactive 4, asking about what about learning curve for PMs? And this is actually something that my massive team, that's me and Sander, are working on presently. It's just this idea of like, let's make sure that that we want our agencies, if we want happy merchants, that starts with the agency input, right? So that starts with teaching agencies, especially new agencies, like new to the Shopware ecosystem, like how do you estimate things, like what, and maybe based on the platforms that you've worked with before, where are those danger areas where you need to make sure you're giving yourself enough time, because what you want to do is we want projects to be delivered on time, on budget, and at a high quality level. And I think that's incumbent on us as a platform to really facilitate that. And then if we do that good work at the beginning, then everyone gets to do good work, for the merchants. And that, I think that kind of success, it ends up being like compounding interest. And I think about that. It's maybe a little unfair, but many of us probably remember from the Magento 1 world, like the best example of this that I know of was oh, they have this one little thing they want to do where the price is displayed, and you're like, oh, no, I know that template, and it's going to take 100 hours to do anything in there, and it's probably going to be a really brittle solution. I think ultimately that got solved eventually in Magento 2, but that's the kind of thing where you want people to know, oh, okay, hey, well, okay, so this, this customization, well, this is going to have to actually involve the state machine, right? And so you want to make sure that your team is trained up on state machine and knows how to think through that solution and the implications of how you solve problems there. Because it's very powerful, but it also is a lot of opinionated architecture around order, order status and order handling. So for this group, what do we think about that? And I'll open up this question actually even a little more broadly, because this involves platform effort, like our company effort to help agencies do better. What are the things that this group sees, like what can Shopware do more, better, differently to enable success and to enable Shopware to be used, for those merchants that would benefit from Shopware?
Okay. So the Okay, because at one point in time you spoke about project management, and now the question is a little bit different at the end. Okay, but what can Shopware do? I think that listen to the feedback of the agencies, make sure that the actual platform is delivering, that is less buggy, etc. And think about kind of the brand positioning. Think about how the brand should be performed, because the agencies don't have so much power in creating the international brand awareness of Shopware. To do it on our own, we can help. But I think it would be a joint effort between agencies and Shopware, and maybe get some alignment to it. But make sure that on a long run, platform gets stable, and that it has the right direction, and that it's very clear and transparent who is it for, and that I don't know, to be aligned about it, because in the future, in the years to come, the whole ecosystem, e-commerce ecosystem, will be more and more versatile. You will have more platforms with different niches. Shopware cannot be the platform to rule them all. Shopware needs to have a strong position, and with the agencies, and listening to the feedback, Shopware should be able to shape these positions in the years to come. I'm not sure whether it was the answer that you searched for, or
no. And I was maybe being a little greedy, trying to pack a couple of questions together.
Okay.
But specifically, like if I think it's something that Shopware can do is help, especially new agencies. So when I ask the general question, what can Shopware do do better, or do in the future for our partners? Can we help with things like estimation? Can we help maybe develop specific training there, or specific certifications? I don't know, but that's why that was my open door into this question. So
estimation's a real interesting one, isn't it? But you could tell I've got one thing that really bugs me quite a lot, is defaults, good defaults. And this is not just this is for any kind of piece of software, that really thinking about what a default position should be for a piece of functionality. At its base level, should it be on or off by default? And there are some things that come turned on, and I'm not talking about Shopware specifically, just in general, where you go, why was this turned on by default? I don't want it, I don't need it, turn it off by default, and then if I need it, it's there. So I would say really focusing on good default positions or good default installs, so that the features that you're offering don't have to be on unless.
So you're not encumbering the UI with a bunch of options that may not even be relevant. Do you think that has to do with that has some international implications, like, oh well, this default makes sense here, or this default in the on position makes sense in this market, but probably doesn't in this market, and maybe we can help with that sort of demo ability or applicability of it's like, okay, oh, we're gonna pitch a US merchant. Here is how you take Shopware, and you do this one thing, it's ready to show to a US merchant, something like that.
Yeah, I think it might well be regional specific. You may have a set of defaults for the US versus Europe versus something else. I think it's quite a complex. Actually, it's quite a simple concept, but it's quite a complex answer.
It took quite a lot of time. We created a B2C default setting or installation with some plugins that we like a B2B one, open source B2B one, and so we have a set that if we normally start with that set, but to really create that, well, it took us quite some time. Yeah, we call it the H1 special sauce, but yeah, it became a running gag. Like where did that time go? Yeah, it went into the special sauce, because so if you, it's a good idea, Mark, actually. Yeah, you should have pitched it 1 year ago. No, but it's a great idea. would really help other companies, starting companies with that.
Keep it simple. The default should be simple. The complexity should be optional.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, for sure.
solution specialist training would be beneficial, and solution specialist certification should also. I don't think there exists now, but you know, this could be a good thing. Project management was mentioned. I don't believe Shopware should take into any role into estimation and project management. It's an intimate thing. It depends on the corporate culture. It depends on the local market, etc. To be, I think that Shopware should not interfere in this area. It should be left to the companies to choose the methodologies, the estimation methods, whatever they are using, because they know the clients, they know their client specifics. They know what to be the challenge, and I don't believe that Shopware should interfere there. But solution specialist training and helping project managers, salespeople to achieve amount of knowledge that will help them into do their job. I think Shopware could help them. But project management is an intimate thing for the.
So as far as I remember, the training process is more oriented on developers, and there's one, as far as I remember, user training or so-called course, and yet the certification process is also more oriented on developers. However, it would be great to see two certification paths, the one for the technical guys, obviously, and the other one for business oriented, so that people can actually, not only project managers, but also consultants, sales managers can basically benefit from that knowledge. So we need to remember that the whole platform is not only for developers, but also for people who are doing business behind it. So I don't think they are less important in terms of certification than developers. And it's quite a challenge to learn somebody to know the business perspective and basically pros cons of a platform. It's probably even harder to certify it. So,
and perhaps making sure that the people working in these different areas, have maybe a forum, a focus place where they can connect. So if you are in the business of estimating projects, you can potentially get in touch with your peers at other companies. It's always an interesting space where you have, what the people who might actually be competitors to some degree, in this business. I think in this open source, open platform approach, there is a little bit of a balance between, the stuff that makes your offering unique and special, but then the collective benefit of making sure that everyone involved in the ecosystem is able to do their best work. Because, kind of taking it back to that question that kicked all this off, when someone does not do Shopware work well, it impacts all of us, and the opposite is true, that when people do a good job with Shopware, and there are those happy success stories, there's the GPMD's, like 8x revenue enhancement, if I remember correctly, Mark. Like that's a holy crap level story that I'm sure one of my colleagues who is on this call is probably going to reach out to you about, because we're going to want to promote that. I think I'm going to kind of start winding this up here so that we can go into some focused breakout rooms. But before I do that, I would actually just throw something out. I no idea if anyone on the panel would like to ask themselves or their fellow panelists any questions that that didn't get asked, or maybe we've covered it all.
One point on the estimation, if anyone wants to have a session on how to estimate, I'm all ears to listen to how other people do it, and show anyone who wants to listen how we do it, because it's a big topic, has been for years, and I'm sure it will continue to be so for years in the future as well. So
maybe I have one. Actually, it would be kind of interesting to hear from you. How long did it take from the point of idea of joining Shopware as an agency to actually making the first business out of it?
Good question.
And from signing a contract to the the partner contract to the first project, it took 1 month.
Wow, that's good.
But it took some time before we decided to sign the contract because we, yeah, ask Patrick. Yeah, because we really took the time to get to know the platform, etc., etc. So I think it took at least 6 months before we decided, okay, we will be a Shopware partner, and after that it went quite fast.
Okay. Yeah, for us it was also 6 months. So yeah, 2 quarters actually.
For us, it's a little bit, shorter, but it also took a couple of months because at the start we made the initial research. We saw that it's a good opportunity. Then we created the brainstorming and created some type of idea backlog of the things that we want to do internally, and kind of to evaluate the competence factor. And then we built some of the payment gateways. We built a local imaginary store. We build a local translation. We build one let's say more advanced extension that we hope will publish soon. And then when we had first internal deliveries, and only then we started to work on the first client project. But I see that it's the same. It's very similar with other companies.
We did the same, but we took 6 months and you 3 months, so you're way faster.
But we made initial. Okay. Maybe it was.
I think we took about 6 months from beginning to seriously look at it to signing our first client.
Okay, so you can take that statistic as a pretty proven number then. So.
Yep, that's the that'll be interesting to see how that either remains or changes over time as Shopware, as we ramp up, especially our international presence, brand awareness, and facilitation of partner business. So I guess I'll be turning it back over to Justin here, but I just wanted to take a second and thank thank Shopware United for hosting this, and thank all of our esteemed panelists, Mark, Michal, Tomislav. I will say, let me see, cheers, thank you, dziękuję, and hvala.
Bravo.
Thank you.
What a show off. Nothing if not a show off. I was going to say, remember that this event is brought to you by Shopware United, in spite of the impression that Ben might have given you. Also, I mean, one of the things that Shopware United is involved with at the moment is trying to get some impetus behind a solution specialist type qualification. And we have a push to ask for questions to go into a sort of an exam bank. It's all on our site at shopwareunited.com. You can see under projects, there's a solution specialist project where you can see what the syllabus, or I've been told that I should call it a curriculum because no one understands outside England what a syllabus is. You can see what the curriculum is and you can submit questions, and that would be really helpful. That would help that qualification get off the ground, which at Shopware United we're really keen to do. If you want to get involved either locally or globally, please get in touch. We're very keen to get new people who want to get involved, who want to help push the Shopware community, the international Shopware community forward. We want to get, we're really keen to get you involved. If you have events that are e-commerce and only vaguely Shopware related, then tell us, because we're more than happy to help promote them for you. And if there's anything else we can do to help, anything else that the Shopware United team can do to help Shopware and you in e-commerce, then let us know. We're going to open some breakout rooms. It's kind of like a popularity contest. I'm going to ask each of the panelists to go into a breakout room, obviously, and you're going to have to sort of vote with your feet. And if there's no one you particularly want to talk to, I will be here in the middle and we can have a chit chat about nothing in particular. Mostly, as I'm British, it's going to be about the weather.
How to join the rooms?
1 second, you'll see now. They're open.
Okay.
Do you see at the bottom there?
Yeah.
Breakout rooms.
See, do I see this?
Everyone see it? No?
No.
You getting
Yes.
it?
Should be down there on the on
Yeah.
the bottom of your screen. There is a breakout
If
rooms
not,
thing.
if not, update your Zoom.
A bit too late for that.
Yeah, you need to click. You need to click.
Yeah, you have to click it, I think.
Clicky.
Ben, you have to go into a room as well. You know that.
I
There's a
know.
room for you.
I know.
It's cool that Ben's
Go-
standing in the
Go
corner.
to
of
your room, young
But
man.
Yes,
these-
go to your
these-
room, young man.
But these other people are more interesting.
Yeah. They'll be looking for you in your room. There we go. Then I can do things like fun things like randomly assign you all to rooms if you don't go. Cool. Now I've got to find out how the room stuff's happening. Yeah, everyone's in there. They're all in their rooms, and there's people in each room, apart from some people who haven't joined rooms.
Yeah, we don't like you, so we were staying here and bother you.
It means they haven't been listening.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Ignacio is,
name them and shame them.
Ignacio's doing something else, I guess.
Ignacio, you haven't been listening, have you? Or you just wanted to talk to me?
You fell asleep.
Everyone find that interesting?
I guess
Yeah.
so.
We catch up a good number of people here all the time. Some people I haven't met before, I think.
Can you listen to me?
I can hear you.
There's a question in the chat.
I don't seem to be in any room. Vish, you can just at the bottom there, this button says breakout rooms.
Yeah, I'm there. But
Do you want me to put you in a room? Do you want me to
Okay.
put you in a room? I can force
Yeah,
you
please.
into a room. Which room would you
Okay.
like? Who would you like to go talk to?
Oh, I can go. Okay.
Maybe Michelle?
You want to talk to Michelle?
Yeah.
You're there.
Thank you.
See, I feel like the fairy godmother.
Yeah, you are like door handler, you know?
I'm the doorman. Exactly right.
Yeah,
Yeah, if you're not on the list, you're not coming in. That's what we say in England.
Missed the breakout sessions. Is that right?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
had some?
They're happening now.
Oh.
You've been asleep.
You don't want to go,
I had to
Melanie,
leave
or do you?
for 30 minutes. So I'm back.
Oh, well, thank goodness. We missed you so much, Mel.
Oh yeah, I thought that's why I came back. So I left when it was about the solution specialist. So you agreed that we need one, or?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
definitely.
Good.
Peter, where are you staying here? You want to go into a room?
Well, I'm gonna pick up something in a moment, but it sounds more fun to stay here for the time being than to join the others.
You want to be very British and talk about the weather, do you?
Yeah, British come in. You're a bit of British.
No, I mean, you know,
We also talk
your-
about football.
your comments.
Weather,
Your
please.
comments about holding the door reminded me about Game of Thrones and the Hodor character, you know, and hold the door.
You calling me Hodor?
Yeah. I'm sorry, it just reminds me about
God,
that.
Jesus, I've been insulted many times in my life, but never quite like
Not like
that.
this. Yeah. There's always this first time thing that happens, right?
Yeah.
From
thank
a
you.
guy from Poland, right?
Damn right.
Uh,
Yeah, of
yeah.
course.
No,
Thank
I
you for
mean,
that.
you know, I was listening to the whole, you know, conversations that were taking place, and you know, your last, let's say, the topic about the solution specialist stuff. And you know, no matter what's the platform we are talking about, I believe that having such certificate is I mean, well, maybe saying a must is a bit too much, but it's gonna help for sure. I've seen in my professional career, taking over projects or even working with my own teams with, some junior people that, they wanted to start to build something, right? I'm like, well, guys, hold on. Why do you want to build this? Like, just go to the panel, admin panel, do the back office, and change that setting, and you're all
done.
fixed, right? You're done.
Don't
You
reinvent the wheel.
I mean, I'm this IT guy. It's something that my first manager in the Netherlands taught me once. Like, IT people are lazy in a positive way, right? You need to work smart, not hard, right? And I do work rather smart. So if I can do something, just simply saying switching on or off some configuration in admin, I'm just gonna do that, right? And even if I don't know if there's something like this in the platform, this or that platform, I'm just gonna check the documentation, right? So it's important to have a good one, a good documentation there, right? Only if I'm not gonna be able to find that in the documentation or just simply clicking through the system, well, I'm gonna try to think if it's really something that is important and has the business value to implement that stuff, right? But of course, that's just my point of view, and Shopware is gonna do whatever they want with this input or not. Maybe they will not even hear it, right? But I would say that it will help. Like also the topic that has been brought by someone, the person from India and their agency, that they are taking over some projects from different agencies that, let's say, do not know exactly what they were doing with the platform, right?
Do not conform to the platform default.
I mean, it's not nothing bad with the platform, right? Like
non-compliant with the platform.
Yeah,
norms.
Exactly. Right. I mean, it's not the platform's fault or all the author's fault that someone is misusing their solution, right? That they don't know how to use it, right? Of course, it can be on a bad side for the customers and building the well, in this case, Shopware brand awareness across the globe, right? But then I like, I'm coming from, let's say, a bit different area. Well, of course, I do know Shopware. It's not that I've done projects with Shopware, but I mentioned this in the chat that sometimes some of the clients that I'm potentially working on or trying to start some project, they are deliberately asking, like, hey guys, do you have this or that number of certified people, like front-end developers, back-end developers, solution specialists? If you don't, well, you simply will not even start to work for us, right? You need to prove us that you're capable of doing this stuff, right, for us. So yeah.
No, I mean, I certainly think from going back to the project, the solution specialist thing, I think the important thing to remember here is that 50% of an e-commerce project has nothing to do with development, nothing whatsoever. And I would argue sometimes more.
Sorry. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I've seen with the other platform certification that I took as a solution specialist. So it forced me for some areas that just organically going for projects you don't reach. It doesn't happen. If you just have very specific projects, or you don't get to learn some stuff, and it's not exactly the same. It forces you to really know the product, and that always has value. And it's the same for developers.
But yeah, I agree with that, right? And I totally agree with you, Justin, right? My professional background is that I've been a developer back in the days that ended quite some time ago. I'm now working more like a solution specialist, solution architect, technical PM, whatever, you name it. I'm calling sometimes myself a firefighter, right? Wherever there's a fire on the project, I'm just going there and fixing it, right? Or trying at least, and not break it more than it was, right? And yeah, it's sometimes not only about knowing the platform and the feature of the platform, right? It's also good to know, generally how the e-commerce is working, how project management is working, right? Although I agree, someone said like, it's up to the agency that, if you're doing Scrum approach or whatever, like waterfall, whatever works for you, right? But then again, you need to know and you need to be aware what are the differences between those approaches, right? The methodologies, right? And it's like, I don't know who said that, but like, Shopware is not gonna fit all the needs for everyone, right? It's the same story about the project management approaches, right? There's no like a golden solution that will fix everything for everyone, right? So yeah, but what I was trying to say is that it's worth to know things not only about the platform itself, but also regarding some software development lifecycle, project management stuff, risk management, disaster recovery stuff, right? If you are talking about some bigger players, right, on the market.
Yeah, no, I think we're all from agreement. As I say, that's where we put this. The Shopware United team have tried to put this thing into operation just to try and get it to happen. Because I think I certainly I remember from the Magento, I used to run a Magento agency in the UK, and in the early days, Magento was very tainted by the fact in certification all round, but also in sort of commercial certification rather than developer certification, that there were, we used to win half our projects as rescue projects because of stuff that had been underestimated, and therefore, client expectations had been blown out of the water. Where, as well, of course, in the development side, where design agencies had tried to extend things where they hadn't got a clue how they were supposed to extend it compliantly. This was a problem, and it was only when Magento got their certification ducks in a row, both development and then later solution specialist type certification, that the quality of solutions went through the roof. It improved rapidly. I think it had a big thing to do with it.
I would agree with that. I'm coming from the same, let's say, area.
Yeah.
I'm doing this stuff for quite some time, and I did start with Magento 1 back in the days. I must say one thing, that I see even, let's say, higher, let's say, value of the certificates right now with Magento 2 than it was with Magento 1. At some point with Magento 1, it was that like, it was more or less like everyone that had enough time and just wanted to learn some questions will just go and pass the exam, right?
Yeah.
I guess I was a bit too lazy at those days that I didn't even try. Although I'm working with this stuff for quite a few years already, more than a decade. But right now with Magento 2, although there were some recent changes with the certification approach that the Adobe team is doing.
Yeah, no, I heard they're expiring.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even want to talk about it. I mean, I'm sure we can, right? I would say that even if Ben would come back here, he could probably tell a few words about this, because he was in part of the team that was saying that expiration of the exams is not going to happen at all, right? There are there are a few official quotes around the net that are stating this, right? Well, but it's a real world, right? And it's sometimes simply as changing the name of the certificate, or just, one company acquiring another, and things that were told by people when such acquisition like this one happened, the things that were told are not valid anymore sometimes, right? Which, I mean, it's like, I agree in part of this, that it's a good thing to recertificate people. Although I don't know the details how they want operational speaking to do it, meaning like, what are the costs? How
125.
Exactly.
It is a lower cost. I think it's 125.
Yeah, but then we were talking something about delta between, I don't know. I mean, versions or something, right? Which makes sense, right? At least till the moment where the platform is growing.
Yeah.
But come on, let's face it. Like, whatever it's, if it's Shopware, Magento, SWU, I don't know, PrestaShop, WooCommerce, BigCommerce, whatever, right? You're gonna reach a point in time where your platform is gonna be mature enough that, I mean, adding extra features, extra stuff, it's like building a Christmas tree in summer. It doesn't make sense at all, right? And then if you're reaching such point, what's then the point of your certificate to expire? if there's not going to be a new thing added, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe I'm missing some points. So, you know, it's just me talking.